Welcome. We're about to tackle a really fascinating question, one that gets right to the very heart of the Christian faith. What's the single foundational belief that, according to centuries of theological thought, holds the entire structure together?
So, let's just jump right in. Is there one non-negotiable belief that Christianity absolutely, positively cannot exist without? A single pillar that, if you were to pull it out, would just cause the whole thing to come crashing down? Now, your mind might immediately go to some of the big ones, right? Jesus' profound moral teachings, like the Sermon on the Mount, or maybe his title as the Messiah. What about his divinity as the Son of God? Or, hey, even the miracles he performed. These are all incredibly important, for sure, but the sources we're looking at suggest they might not be the absolute bedrock.
To find that bedrock, we've got to dig a little deeper. So let's get into what this theological perspective calls the one unshakable pillar, the true core of Christian faith.
And to find the answer, we have to go way back. We're talking about one of the earliest and most influential Christian writers out there, the Apostle Paul. And he argues that the foundation isn't a title or a teaching at all, but something else entirely.
In his first letter to the Corinthians, Paul makes this incredibly stark claim. He writes, "And if Christ has not been raised, our preaching is in vain, and so is your faith." Wow. There is zero ambiguity there, right? He is drawing a line in the sand, tying everything, and I mean everything, to a single specific event.
And that one event is, of course, the resurrection. But what does that really mean in this context? Well, it's defined as the moment Jesus was seen alive by his disciples after the crucifixion. And what's so critical here is that it's presented not as just some abstract concept, but as a real, historical encounter that completely transformed his followers and basically launched the entire Christian movement.
Okay, so if the resurrection is the central pillar, what does that mean for everything else? How does it affect all those other important ideas we just talked about? Well, this leads us to kind of rethink Jesus' identity and to see how this single event reframes, well, everything.
Now, you're probably asking the obvious question. Hang on a second. Does this mean titles like Messiah and Son of God don't actually matter? It's a totally fair question, and the answer is really more about reordering than just throwing them out.
The short answer is not quite. What it suggests is that these titles aren't discarded at all, but instead they're reinterpreted through this powerful new lens of the resurrection. They become the language used to make sense of that unbelievable event, a kind of post-resurrection way to explain who Jesus truly was.
You can see this dramatic shift in understanding right here. Before the Easter event, Jesus' followers might have seen him as a prophet or a great teacher, maybe even a political Messiah. But after the resurrection, their entire Christology, that is, their core understanding of who Christ was, it just fundamentally transforms. He is now the risen one, the very center of salvation. It's a total game changer.
And this leads to a pretty powerful conclusion. From this perspective, faith can hold firm even if you believe that high Christology, those grand titles like Son of God, actually developed after the Easter event. Why? Because the anchor isn't the title. It's the event that inspired it in the first place. So, how does this all fit together then? Let's try to map it all out in our final section and see how this one transformative event creates a really clear hierarchy of belief. As we've seen, the key isn't to dismiss any part of the faith. Not at all. It's to understand the relationship between all the pieces, to see what serves as the foundational pillar and what is the beautiful structure that's built on top of it.
This argument really presents a clear three-step kind of logic. Step 1, it all starts with the resurrection. That's the transformative event, the core foundation. From there, step 2, that event is seen as the ultimate confirmation of Jesus' life and teachings. And finally, step 3. This leads to a huge enrichment of understanding where all these theological concepts like messiahship and divinity are used to explain the profound meaning of that foundational event.
So, let's wrap this all up. What are the core takeaways here? First, according to this analysis, Christian faith literally hinges on the reality of the resurrection. Second, it's understood as a transformative event, not just a title or a definition. And finally, all the other rich theology, it serves to explain and enrich this core, but it never ever replaces it.
And that leaves us with a final thought to mull over. How does focusing on a historical event rather than on a theological title change our entire understanding of what faith is and how it functions? It's a question that gets right to the heart of this unshakable foundation. Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer.